How's it going, OFPs? And welcome to another episode of the Off Field Players Podcast. I'm your host, Phillip Hall, and I hope everybody's having an awesome week or had an awesome weekend. I mean, I know my weekend was pretty thrilling, especially what we all witnessed this weekend. And also, just to let everybody know that this episode of the Off Field Players Podcast is episode number 2 of the NASCAR Diversity Internship Program series. And as everybody knows, I'm putting together a NDIP series to highlight all of the interns and do informational interviews with them that are members of the NASCAR Diversity Internship Program class of 2023. And so far, what NASCAR, the sport itself, has been doing, they have been changing the game and have done something that has never been seen before by the sport. So by the time that this episode is taking place, or right after this episode, we just witnessed the first ever NASCAR street course race. That's right, NASCAR went to Chicago, Illinois, and did their first ever street course race in the 75 years of the sport, knowing that this year, 2023, is NASCAR's 75th anniversary. And I'm actually proud to have a couple of our interns here that were actually helping out with that race in particular. So it's going to be fun to highlight them tonight. But I just want to give them the floor. So, ladies and gentlemen, please introduce yourselves. Tell them what department you're in, and just a little bit more about yourself as individuals and what school you go to.
Yeah, I'll start off first. So my name is Darren Henderson. I'm from New Jersey. I currently attend Temple University where I'm studying sports management. And here at NASCAR, I'm in the Multicultural and Youth Department, Marketing Department.
I'll go next. Hi, so my name is Salaah. I'm originally from India, but currently live in Washington, D.C. I'm attending George Washington University for my master's in business analytics. And within NASCAR, I work in this sports betting department as the sports betting intern. That's a little about me.
Hi, I'm Juliana. So I am from Michigan and I attend Wayne State University and I'm a double major in marketing and management. And right now I'm working with NASCAR as a social media intern.
Hey everyone, so I am Angelina. I just go by Lena because people inevitably call me Angela or Angelica. But I'm from Chicago, Illinois, born and raised in the Southwest Side. I attended Depaul University, just recently graduated a few weeks ago with a BA in English, although I've been pursuing journalism for the longest, and I'm in the communications department at NASCAR.
Well, there you have it. All the interns have introduced themselves. They told us what the departments they're in. And just also, right off the bat, I want to tell everybody on the call from Angelina, Salaah, Darren, and Juliana that it is like you should be congratulating yourself to even be in the NASCAR Diversity Internship Program. Like, yep, that's right, Darren. Get yourself a pat on the back. I mean, we all know like how much it took for us to be in this program, and as I mentioned in the first episode, this is my second year in a row being an NDIP. I'm the only returning intern in the program, and I guess in a way, just going back to how orientation weekend went for us in Charlotte, it kind of felt like everybody there adopted me as the big brother of the group because it's like everybody was asking me questions. So like, oh, Phillip, like what was it like last year? Like, oh, did you do all the stuff that we did this year, last year? Like, where were you? And just being able to pass on that mentorship to everybody that's new to the program, and even in a way new to NASCAR, the sport itself. It felt like my leadership skills really came into play and developed them over time. And the purpose of this podcast is to not only encourage those to learn about the sports industry and even introduce themselves to try to find a way to get into the sports industry, try and get into a program like NDIP, but to also just mentor young individuals. The next generation that's coming behind us, they're really curious about what the world's going to look like, and I feel like it's up to us as interns and really just as people to encourage that next generation to take on those opportunities, specifically those opportunities that are in the sports industry. But I just want to start off with, just getting a little bit, personal about you guys. Just seeing, what was your first introduction to sports? Like that could either be, the first sport you played when you were kids, the first sport you watched. Did your parents play any sports? Did you have any brothers or sisters or any, relatives that grew up in the sports? Like, what was your first ever introduction to sports?
Yeah, I don't know in particular what was like the very first moment of where I got introduced into sports, but my parents definitely encouraged it at a young age. Growing up, I played basketball, soccer, baseball, tennis, so definitely playing, getting the feel for like the competitive nature, learning all the values of teamwork and stuff like that. But yeah, definitely started at a young age.
Yeah, same here. So I played like 11 years of softball. I didn't continue it in college because I went to a D1 school. Did not want to embarrass myself at tryouts. So I played softball. My brothers played baseball, and like they were in travel leagues and stuff. And my dad, he like during my childhood, he drove us all around the country visiting different MLB stadiums. So I kind of just I fell in love with baseball. Then I ended up like getting into hockey and football, basketball, and like branching into other sports. It wasn't until I interned with like a college basketball magazine in college and like went so I was invited as a student journalist to the Chicago Bears draft party in 2022. And that's when I knew I really wanted to get into sports media and like sports journalism. And like it was just such an exciting opportunity. And like I already had a passion for sports anyways. So like applying to this internship and like actually getting it is like literally a dream come true because like how many people applied and how many people actually got it.
I mean, that's awesome just to hear.
For me, like, so it's just me, my mom, and my dad. We're like a three people, small little family. So like growing up, I think watching sports was like our thing. Like our bonding time was like watching cricket or like tennis or like any other random sport that was going on. Like, so I think that was like my first introduction to the whole sports thing, and it was like a very close to heart thing because it was just like straight. I associated with like family bonding. And so that's, I think, where like my love for sports, understanding sports like came from, and then this opportunity happened. So like it's kind of all translated into where I am today.
So my first introduction in sports, so growing up, my dad was a big Bruce Lee fan. So we would always like, do some martial arts together. And then he put me in Taekwondo. And I ended up doing Taekwondo for 9 years, and I was like a very competitive athlete. So like I traveled like to a few states for nationals. I've been to Costa Rica for like a lot of fights. And that was like my main introduction to sports, and it really just like my whole childhood too. So then I just fell in love with the discipline that sports comes with. So,
I mean, that's all awesome. And, from Angelina, being in the softball, Salaah, just growing up watching different sports, and Darren, you picking up a different variety of sports growing up, then Juliana, being into, Taekwondo, MMA, the mixed martial arts aspect or landscape. I think, it's all very unique. And from what I notice about us interns is that all of us have a different story, and just hearing the different stories about the different kind of sports you play. I mean, it's very interesting because we think about just being tied to one specific sport growing up or trying to work into one specific sport, but we also have to think about the other opportunities like the sports worldwide. Actually, earlier today I was watching highlights of the Tour de France because I'm a huge cycling guy. I watch it casually, but just also really just being an avid cyclist, just being able to learn that, oh wow, there's people that do this professionally. And it really just shows you the different variety of the sports landscape that's out there and how there's all these opportunities that's set in place in that regard. Um, as far as just coming up, you know, with like you said, playing sports or watching it, like what experience did you have in either high school or college that led you to want to work in sports?
Yeah, I would say a big part of it goes to my career development class that I took my sophomore year of high school. And like in that class, we were like tasked with like just looking up different careers that you might be like interested in. And I remember one of those was like sports. Like I didn't really know that there was a career that you could do in sports, but through that class, I was able to research and dig deeper and understand like this was a possible route that I could take. So that definitely helped along with playing basketball in high school.
Yeah, so like growing up, I feel like I don't know about you guys, but like when you're talk you talk about sports with your parents or something like that. And so like I had brothers, and so like as a woman like trying to have a conversation about sports like with my dad, I wasn't taken as serious. And like I noticed this like in a like more significantly in high school. So I was like, you know what? Like I'm gonna show them like I'm gonna have a job in sports. I don't care what it is. And like I'm gonna like show them that I'm knowledgeable about sports, even though I already was, but like I had something to prove, as a woman. And so once I got into college, obviously I got into journalism. I started writing about sports, and that's when I knew that this is what I wanted to do for sure.
For me, I didn't think I was gonna get into sports. It was not like something I had pre-decided or even like thought about. I think I like things I'm passionate about. Like if I'm passionate about something, I know I'm gonna give it my 100% and give it my best. And like I think I was really passionate about like motorsports in general. And that's kind of how like I was just like, okay, I'm gonna do this. Like I'm gonna try to figure out a career in motorsports. I started like doing all these like other things that would like kind of lead me here. And that's how I kind of landed here. So it was all like just a passion project for me. And I'm glad it just worked out.
So for me, back in high school, I didn't plan on like going into sports. My mindset was more so on either being a surgeon or a chemical engineer. So that sports compared to that is such a different like background. But I think over time, like I started like just developing like love for social media, and I know sports are really big on social media, so that's when I kind of figured out like, you know what, maybe sports might be an interesting route. So right now, just trying it out, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's all good, and I feel like for everybody that's worked in the sports industry, and even for us that are interning now, like we always start somewhere. And and I probably didn't touch this a little bit on this on the first episode, but I knew the one thing that really helped me get the proper introduction to be in sports. I mean, aside from, growing up playing sports, like my sport, primarily was baseball. I started when I was 6 and played all the way up till the end of high school. And then, when I get to college, even though I had these dreams of playing Division I baseball, I tried to walk on for the team at St. John's, but as everybody knows, I was a failed walk on. So it led me to go into other routes where, I started to want to do broadcasting because I knew being in the student radio station at St. John's, there was a sports department where we would broadcast the soccer, the basketball games, the baseball games, even, some guys did lacrosse and, softball as well. And just knowing that were all those other opportunities, it really dates back to trying to find a mentor that, can have that influence on somebody to be like, hey, there's these opportunities out there. And for us to, get those opportunities, the one thing that's taught in the sports management classes is that it's not about what you know, it's about who you know and who knows you. And when we think about the people that we need to find, that we need to know, it all comes down to trying to find that proper mentorship. So I want to segue into my next question for everybody. Who did you have as a mentor, or whether it's a professor, a counselor, or anybody that gave you that information to want to pursue the opportunities in the sports industry when you had the chance?
Yeah, I would say my first mentor was definitely my cousin. She's currently in the sports industry right now with the NFL, and she actually graduated from Temple to the same school I go to right now. So she was a great resource to use. You have to, in order to actually have like a mentor and you utilize them, is you have to ask questions. So I was definitely able to just text her, ask her questions about sports, and really apply them to what I was doing in high school and college.
Right on.
I'd say my mentor would be this man named Dave Berend. So he's basically like he created College Basketball Times. So it's like the college basketball magazine, and My focus was actually on women's wheelchair basketball. And like surprisingly, well, not surprisingly, that sport that like section of basketball doesn't get a lot of coverage. So I had like a lot of pressure on me because he basically had me in charge of that column. And let me tell you, he was brutal to me, like, but in the best way possible. So like obviously I was writing cover stories, but I was also managing like renovating the Instagram page as well. But like if it weren't for his like tough criticism, I honestly I would not have like gotten better as a writer. And I'd say like that contributed a great deal to like why I am where I am today. Just because in communications you have to be a good writer. You know, if you get into journalism and that like the transition from journalism to communications is much easier as opposed to like going from communications to journalism. So I'm really grateful for him.
Hmm.
Shout out Dave Brand. So yeah, but I'd consider him my first mentor for sure.
I wouldn't say I particularly had like a mentor who was guiding me through this. I came across a lot of nice people. This girl called Kendall from my university who was like an alumni and is working in NASCAR today. She was kind of very helpful, but I think a lot of it was just me driving my own self and being like, oh, I can do this. Maybe you could say Google was my mentor. Google did answer a lot of my questions. But other than that, it was like sort of me and my roommates who like especially one like her name is Tanvi. She really helped me and she kind of like gave me the motivation to apply and like do all of those things. So it was like a mixed effort of a lot of people who helped me kind of like get to where I am and actually figure out what I wanted to do. So yeah, my friends and Google helped me with everything.
Hmm.
So I also, as well, necessarily didn't have a mentor, but I did join an organization at school called Way Women in Business. And during the fall semester, we had a women's in sports panel. And so we had the woman who worked for the Pistons come on and do like a little Zoom meeting with us. And they just talked about their experience of what it was like being a woman in sports. You know, I felt like there wasn't really the best history with women, but now that like women are now here in the sport and you know they're getting themselves out there, you know, they're starting to lead the way and it just made me feel like confident, like you know what, like even if this is a male dominant industry, I can still go into this industry. So,
Yeah, I mean, I guess from meeting my mentor, and I'll also shout out my mentor myself, Taj Deshambe, the former VP or former executive for the Oakland Athletics, and I just knew from the first encounter that I had with him, and just seeing how great of a guy he is, and he's doing great things right now, especially in my hometown in Oakland, like he's Oakland native himself, but just being able to receive like insightful information from him to understand the intricacies of the sports industry and just also understanding a little bit more about the challenges and the positives, the pros, cons, that everything that come with working in sports, just knowing how demanding and how competitive it can be at times. It's always great to have somebody like that in your corner that can help push you and help get you on the right route and even connect you with the right people. And Salaah and Julian mentioned how you didn't exactly have a personal mentor, but you were able to use the panels that your schools offer to go and see and go receive insight from individuals that were guest speakers, because yeah, some of us can be shy at times, or some of us may not have the access to find a counselor or find a mentor, but the great thing about being in like a climate that we're in is that there's individuals that are willing to share the information that they have from themselves from firsthand experience with people like us. And I think it's definitely great that like all of us are able to stay versatile with everything that comes with trying to seek some form of mentorship, whether it's personal or external. And I know with one of the things about understanding the power of mentorship, we also have to understand the power of having a competitive spirit. Because the one thing about being an OFP, and it's for all the OFPs out there, and I don't know if I mentioned this to you guys, but the listeners of the podcast, I call them my OFPs because they're aspiring sports industry professionals, and for them to be aspiring sports industry professionals, they have to be have the mentality of an off-field player. So what comes with having the mentality of being an off-field player is that you have the same competitive drive, spirit, team playing, and earnestness to that of an athlete that competes on the field, or in our case, since we're NASCAR interns, on the track. And and I just want to ask, what do you think from your experiences is the most challenging thing about trying to get into the sports industry, whether it's as an intern or as a professional?
I would say for me personally, it was just getting out of like your comfort zone was the most challenging thing. Like I would say like during my first couple of years in college, like networking was really hard because I just wasn't used to just going out of my comfort zone and talking to just random people that could actually help me. So I was definitely a little shy, but through like experience and just constant going to like conferences and doing panels, you kind of learn to get out of your comfort zone and like learn to be your most authentic self. So that definitely helped me.
I want to say networking as well. The field is so competitive. It's who you know, obviously, right? But one very important aspect of networking, and I got this piece of advice from my mentor, was like read the room. So like I have already met with like so many people like throughout like my floor, and you have to like know who you're talking to. You have to like you kind of well obviously self-explanatory, right? Like read the room, like not necessarily tell people what they want to hear, right? But like you have to know how to get along with different kinds of people, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I found like this has been super important, especially when I'm trying to like network and like build relationships with like my coworkers, especially if, I potentially want to get hired one day. So definitely networking and knowing how to talk to people.
I agree with like what Darren and Lena said, like networking is important. But I think one thing like I would say is for me, sports is like a very passion-driven industry. I think you have to have passion within yourself to be able to do it. And also like believing in yourself, because like it's very easy to kind of tell yourself that, oh, there's a gazillion people who are applying for this. What makes you any different or like sets you apart? So like that's kind of like where you lose half the battle. So I would say like believing in yourself and just using whatever passion you have within you to channel it into like getting where you want to be is very necessary. Yeah, that's a little for me.
I would say the most challenging thing is overcoming self-doubt. I think a lot of times we all have self-doubt, but it comes to a point where it's now like you guys start believing in yourself and manifest things into existence. I always tell people this. As well, I think networking is also challenging, but you need to be able to get out of your comfort zone. I mean, a while ago, like I had bad social anxiety, like I didn't want to talk to people. I didn't want to join any orgs, but I told myself like if I want to get out there, I need to like how Darren said, get out of my comfort zone. So for anyone who's also like feeling that way, I'd say join orgs, meet new people, and just network. Like if you go to a networking event, give yourself a challenge and be like, I will talk to 5 people, introduce myself, and get their LinkedIn's.
I mean, I heard a lot about networking, and I think that's the number one step in trying to, going back to our last question about mentorship, being able to, talk with people. I know one thing that I was always reminded is that, for you to get ahead in really not just the sports industry, but any industry, is that you have to be a really good people person. You're gonna have a lot of conversations, a lot of meetings, a lot of lunch dates, dinner dates, morning brunches, you name it. And if you're able to develop those social skills, and this could be at any time in your life, I think that's a bonus for, getting into the industry and also just trying to build those network connections. I know one of my favorite things when I was at St. John's was, career fairs. And even also being at the sports games too, because There's a funny story, when it came to my past for broadcasting. One of my, like idols that I look up to when it comes to broadcasting is Gus Johnson, and everybody knows who Gus Johnson is. He does college football. He's done the NFL, March Madness. He does broadcasting for Big East Conference basketball. And I remember I was broadcasting a game for St. John's at Madison Square Garden, and I remember we were walking inside the arena, and I was about to grab my credentials, and I know the one, and I didn't recognize it was Gus Johnson at the time, but he was in front of me. But I didn't recognize him by how he looked. I recognized him by his voice. And like I had my partner Thomas with me that day, and I'm tapping him like, I'm kind of geeking out. I'm like, dude, that's Gus Johnson. It's like, I didn't want to like come off like fanboy type, but I just still, it was like exciting to meet him. And then, during like pregame when both the teams were doing shoot around, I think we were playing UConn that day. And, both the teams they were doing shoot around, and then, I'm down on the floor and I see Gus Johnson over by the broadcasters table, and like I'm sweating balls. I mean, like I'm just like, oh my gosh, I want to go talk to him, but I'm not sure how to do it because, I don't like, I don't want to, because, the whole thing, like never meet your heroes in person. And, I was just trying to find a way, like, let me just strike him up. So, Thomas, he talked me into it. I'm walking to like over at half court, and I turned around, I was like, called like, hey, Gus Johnson, and he turned around like, hey, how's it going, buddy? And just shook his hand. And I told him like, hey, you're my inspiration to want to get into broadcasting in the first place. And the way that you story tell, the way that you conduct a broadcast with your catchphrases and everything like that, it's something that I try to mix into my style of broadcasting. And I know the one piece of advice that he gave to me that really stuck with me was be a good storyteller. And being a good storyteller is always, an advantage when you're having a social conversation, because the one thing that you can do to carry a conversation is if you could tell it in a way that if you're telling a story, like but keep it entertaining. I think that helps you what gets over the top. And I carry that on with when I'm going out to networking events, when I'm doing podcasting, when I'm doing broadcasting, or even when I'm doing job interviews. I feel like that's if you're able to convey a story, that is going to help you tenfold and definitely get you to where you want to go. But I want to kind of keep it going as far as just doing everything that we can to encourage those individuals that are going to come across this one day and, see the impact that we're making as, interns at NASCAR. So what a piece of advice would you give to the next generation that, understands the challenges of wanting to work in the sports industry, but are trying to do everything they can to help them stand out from the rest?
Yeah, I would just say you get what you put into it. I mean, it all comes down to how much you're willing to take the next step, research even more, connect with the right people. I mean, I think that's kind of what I did to separate myself. Like, I did a lot of volunteering stuff, without any pay, without any credit. I just did it because I really wanted it, and I knew that it would help me later down the line. So people have to understand, like, you have to make some sacrifices, but if you really want it, it will be the results that you want. So,
Something that's so, so important, whoever's listening, keep this in mind because it's 100% true, is you have to start small. Unless like you have a relative who's already in the industry and you're set, that's great. But if you're just regular people like us who, didn't grow up with those connections and like that privilege, you have to start small. I started at like a small time magazine. Well, I started with my school paper. They accept everybody. And like, then I ended up getting the small time college basketball magazine. And then I went on to like a semi big like film organization in LA, and now I'm here. And I know people who are like they're going straight to the big leagues, they're going straight to the MLB, straight to like MLS and all of that. And it's not happening for them. And I think like people, they think, they start small, that's the standard that they have for themselves. But no, like if you don't have those connections, if you don't have that network, like start small. It's okay. It's just gonna be one summer and then it's over. And then you're gonna progress from there. And honestly, if it weren't for that advice, like I don't know where I'd be today.
Hmm.
Um, I would just say like don't get disheartened. What Lena said, like it starts small, whatever it is, like know your know what you want, set a plan for yourself, know what you have to achieve to get where you have to be. Be like diligent in what you have to do. Don't like get sidetracked, know what you want. And honestly, if you're determined enough in life, like discipline can take you a long way. So be disciplined, know what you have to do, make the right connections, and just go headstrong. That's kind of like what I think. Like you can achieve whatever you set your mind to as long as you like know what you have to do and set your goals right.
For me, a piece of advice like I would give someone is believe in yourself and apply to any job position you want. I think a lot of times we think that we're underqualified for jobs, and
Mhm.
that kind of pushes and we have the self-limiting belief, and we're like, I'm underqualified. I'm not gonna apply for this. But you never know. And a lot of times too, if you do get rejected from a job, just understand that it just doesn't align with you. Even if you think it does, it makes you feel better knowing that, you know what, this position may have not been aligned with my values, my belief, and where I want to go in life. So always take the opportunity just to keep applying because you just don't know where it takes you. And a lot of times too, when you are applying for a job, I'd say reach out to that employer. Like find them on LinkedIn. You got to go stalker mode. Find them on
Mhm.
LinkedIn. Who's the hiring manager and message them and make yourself known so they know who you are when they look at your resume and cover letter.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great points there, and I want to go back to you, Lena, how you mentioned that everybody's trying to shoot for the top, trying to get to the big leagues, and but in some cases, not all of us are gonna make it to the big leagues. I mean, my start was in college sports. I just did what I could, like within my school, and what I was doing in my school, that's what helped me get to the big leagues, and just also just the aspect of going back to networking. I know, we sound like a broken record, like repeating ourselves and understanding the importance of reaching out to people to LinkedIn, but I know, when I was in college, like my professors, like they couldn't stress LinkedIn enough. They couldn't stress emailing and finding the recruiters for these organizations that we're trying to look for, and and there's power in it. Like there's like what's said aren't lies. All of it is true. All of it is facts. I mean, everything that you can do, like from a networking standpoint, from just a like a being a versatile standpoint. Understanding that hey, you're gonna have to start small sometimes, and just work your way up. I mean, that's the one thing that I feel like really makes people that work in the sports industry very humble. I feel like the humility comes from knowing that maybe their first job out of college wasn't with Major League Baseball or with the NFL or at the NBA or with like a big name team like Manchester United or the Yankees or like the Lakers. Maybe they did have to start in a minor league team. Maybe they did have to start for a college team, but at least they kept the mindset of the long-term vision of trying to get to where they want to go. And I think that's something we can all learn as individuals, and also what the OFPs can learn is that hey, maybe I can start out local. I mean, I'm an advocate of telling the OFPs that hey, maybe start in your high school. Go to like for your high school, maybe you could do like a writing on your for the football team or the basketball team. The one thing I did, and people can go watch the episode on me talking about the landscape of amateur basketball, was how we see high school players getting their mixtapes. Maybe you could start out being a videographer for like the star player on your high school basketball team or the star player on the baseball team, and that can help open a lot of doors for you, especially in a day and age where social media has so much affect on the way that we market and the way that we, brand ourselves. And, if you start to build a following, start to be consistent with it, then that's where the opportunities come into place, and that's where many doors come up, and you'll find out when you least expect it. So now, like, since I've warmed everybody up about just their lifestyle in the sports industry and having that taste of being an off-field player, I want to kind of go into more what everybody has done so far this summer, since we all started in either, like, late May or early June, and now we're in July. By the way, happy 4th of July to everybody. I don't know if I mentioned that already, but I just want to get a feel of, what has it been like to intern in NASCAR in your respective departments?
Yeah, overall, working with NASCAR has just been an amazing experience. So for me, in particular, in the multicultural and youth department, I've been working on the Chicago street race in terms of Bubba's Block Party, which is like a community event where we bring people of minorities and African Americans into NASCAR and get that experience and exposure. And I've also been helping with like the youth aspect of it in terms of like the NASCAR Kids website. So overall, it's been really great. I've loved just working with my team and getting to connect with them.
Yeah, the comms department is great. It's a party there. Like, there's always something to do. What I like particularly about my role so far is I've been able to help in like multiple departments in a communications role, of course. For instance, I'm helping with gaming and esports, which is really cool. Trying to like get some media coverage for like the top 40 drivers there. I don't know what I'm at liberty to say, so I don't want to say too much. But just like overall general description, it's been like media pitches, media research, like potential media opportunities and stuff like that. But it's been great. I really appreciate like the family value atmosphere that we have at NASCAR. They've been really understanding, especially for like those of us who's, this experience hasn't been perfect for everyone. Some of us have had like, personal issues and stuff like that, and they're very understanding of that, which I appreciate.
My overall experience at NASCAR has been really good. Like, I actually enjoy going to work. I've had the opportunity to meet like a lot of nice people, amazing people from like different walks of life and all of those things. Like, and NASCAR really has like a very homely atmosphere. I'm interning within like the sports betting department, which is kind of something new to me as well. I one didn't know a thing like that could be. So honestly, I've learned so much in the past few weeks. Like, I have learned so much about different aspects of sports betting at a whole, like the future of sports betting, different things like NC becoming like a legal state. I don't know what I'm liberty to say at two, but overall, like, working with Ray and Joe has been an experience. Like, they have been great managers, and I just have had like an amazing experience and have learned a lot more than I expected, and in different fields of things. And it's been an experience, and I would not take it back for anything.
I've been loving my internship. So like again, I'm in the social media department and I just love social media. So right now I've been like working on a project on how NASCAR can target a new consumer and like new people to watch their content. So I've been working on a whole project with that. What I like about NASCAR as well is that if they're very open if you want to know about other departments. So I've been taking advantage of just setting up meetings with as many people as I can and just talking to them and just know about their job. More specifically in like other areas of marketing, like influencer marketing, brand marketing. So I've just been going around. Another thing too, what I love is that like the knowledge that I've learned at school and through my own experience on social media, like I can finally bring it into fruition at like a corporation. So I really like testing my creativity outside of, my own content and stuff, which is really cool as well.
Yeah, I mean, I just know with, being here in Daytona Beach and working with the weekly racing operations team, and, just talking about the whole aspect of grassroots racing, you know, I know one thing that I've noticed about myself, these past few years, is that I love like an underdog story, or I love, to highlight the up and coming. And, for those that have followed me in the past, I've done, interviews with, like people that were up and coming, like, Rajat Karuf, a guy that, is racing in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series, and also someone that we had the opportunity to meet with during our orientation weekend in Charlotte at the race. And just, just hearing his story and just hearing how it's so relative to our generation in particular, it really just does show the direction that NASCAR is trying to go to, not only reach, people in our age bracket, but also just to go down the diversity route more, where we're trying to start to open more doors, get, people of color into the sport itself, and just trying to find any way we can to use what we have during the summer to be able to meet those goals or help NASCAR meet those goals. But I kind of want to focus on you, Darren, and yeah, I'm gonna pick on you, man. Like you said that you're just coming back from Chicago, and I know one thing that we mentioned at the top of the show was that NASCAR had their first ever street course race at Grant Park in Chicago this past weekend. And yeah, if you didn't go watch the race, I highly recommend go check out the highlights. That thing was a movie, and just but Darren, I just want to hear a little bit more about your experience there. Like you mentioned that you being in youth and multicultural marketing, that you were helping out with Bubba's Block Party, which is something that's hosted by Bubba Wallace. And like it and NASCAR itself, and also just knowing the statistics of Chicago has is predominantly black population, and of course being one of the largest cities in the United States. Like, what was something that you noticed or were a part of that you have a lot of value in, just being there, just being on the ground, and just seeing what the sport is trying to do to help meet those goals that's put in place for fan experiences.
Yeah, I mean, the whole experience of being in Chicago was, like you said, a movie. But in terms of like Bubba's Block Party and stuff like that, it really shows like the power that like corporations and organizations have on the community when they're willing to give back and help the people that live there. You see positive results and positive impact. So for Bubba's Block Party, it was a free to attend event where we had music, we had vendors, free haircuts, like people could get face tattoos and stuff like that, gaming simulators, and we had over 7,000 people registered to attend. And it was beyond what we even anticipated because the max was only for 4,000. So it was
Wow.
just a great event where people were coming, showing up, and getting that awareness to what NASCAR is and how NASCAR does care about their communities and wants to help reach a new demographic. So just from that perspective alone was amazing to see. But in terms of like the Chicago street race in general, it's right in the heart of the city. People can see this when they're walking down the street, get to see that like NASCAR is here to stay and that's something that they're trying is new. And hopefully that people will be interested in.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I knew just watching the race last night and just seeing just the magnitude of it, and just even like the aesthetic feel of it. Like just like the unique feel of seeing skyscrapers in the background of a NASCAR race. And I know for those that keep up with motorsports, that's it's very common that you see like street course racing and Formula One or IndyCar, but to see it for NASCAR, like true American, like sport, like in more sport discipline, and like a true American city such as Chicago, just being able to experience that for the first time, and knowing that I've been watching the sport since I was 3 years old. I mean, it was like wow. It was like just how far the sport has come, and just knowing it's been around for 75 years, and it just feels like it doesn't even feel real yet. It hasn't hit me that man, NASCAR just literally raced on public roads. Like just I mean literally had a street race legally to know. But but yeah, it was definitely great. And I even had some friends that I reached out to after the race. I was asking like, oh, like how was it? Like, oh, did you check it out? Did you see that finish? Like, did you like what you feel from it? and there was just nothing but positive remarks. I mean, they all loved it. Like they had like for the friends that I knew that were at the race, like they had a blast being there. And yeah, I mean, it's like I think this is going to be something that we're going to see like in the future as far as the type of events that NASCAR is going to continue to put on. But Lena, I want to highlight you as well, just knowing that Chicago's your city. Just being like knowing you went to school at DePaul, and you're from like Chicago, like the city itself. What did it feel like to have like to celebrate NASCAR, to bring an event like what they put on this past weekend to your hometown?
Honestly, when I first, so I had heard that it was going to be taking place in Chicago before I even got the internship. I think even before I applied.
Wow.
And I was like, there's no way. Like, I drive down Lakeshore Drive every day to go to school. Like, I drop my sister goes to college in downtown too. So like I drop her off down Balbo, which is like where the course like ran through as well. And I'm like, there's no way, like I can't see this happening. But then I started seeing like, they were creating prototypes and stuff like that. And then they had like an actual shape like made out already of the map. And I'm like, okay, like I think I could see this. And then I'm thinking about other things like, Chicago is notorious for potholes and stuff like that and like crappy roads. So that was like another thing. So to see it all work out, well, I know like there was issues with the weather, and that's another thing. Like I mentioned earlier
Mhm.
too, is like that weather was truly an exception. Chicago never experiences flooding like that. Rain doesn't usually last all day in my experience. But to see that final race, get pushed through was great. I did see some of the highlights. I did see that pile up, which is crazy. I'm like, okay, well, not too surprised there, but um, like overall, a lot of people, even now in Chicago, they doubt that race. They don't even want it to happen next year. I think they're crazy because this is honestly like something that's truly amazing. A NASCAR really made like the impossible possible, and super proud of them for that.
Yeah, I mean, and you should be. I mean, just seeing, what NASCAR did for the city, and just even like the atmosphere and like the remarks that came after it. Even though like not everything was perfect about the weekend, it still made for like a great event. I mean, just knowing that it was the first go, I I think they knocked it out the park in more ways than one. But there of course, there's certain things that can't be controlled, like the weather. I mean, we can't like we're not Mother Nature. None of us are, so we can't, dictate, if it's gonna rain, if it's gonna hail, if it's gonna, flood, snow, whatever. But the adjustments that they were able to make at the last minute, I mean, it really just showed like the importance of why NASCAR had to have an event like this. Like the show had to go on, and it did. And it just, growing up watching the sport and just being so used to seeing them race on the oval tracks and road and like closed off road courses, but to be able to take it to the streets, I mean, I feel like NASCAR really achieved a lot, and there's going to be a lot of potential for others, hopefully other cities to have an event like this, especially with the way that NASCAR is going right now. But
Yeah.
I want to go into more on just the presence of us being in this program and understanding that not only are we a part of this program to help NASCAR achieve an initiative that they've been trying to push for over 20 years, but we're also just trying to help, like help NASCAR in a way to where we want to get more people to continue to keep this program strong. So a question that I propose to you guys is, with us being in a diversity internship program, how do we encourage people of color to become more aware about the opportunities to intern or even in a way work with a sport like NASCAR?
I think it comes down to being open and sharing your experience. I mean, this right here, this podcast, we're all sharing our experience. I know you're probably going to post this or share this to other people. So people are going to be open, going to hear what we have to say, and hopefully we can encourage them or inspire them to apply or join organizations like NASCAR. But I think it definitely starts with us individuals, like sharing our feedback, being honest about what we did and how our experience went.
Honestly, I'd say advertising as well. The only reason why I found this internship was through a Facebook ad. And I've been
Hmm.
asked that question like multiple times too, like how did you even get the internship in the first place? I'm like a Facebook ad. With our generation, we're on social media 24/7. What better way to reach out to, a college student to apply for their internship? Um, so advertising is definitely very important.
Um, Adding to that, like I think a lot of it's just like talking within your university. So like I'm an international student, and I feel like a lot of international students kind of don't understand that there are different opportunities from like your basics that you can get into. Because a lot of people are interested in sport but don't know if they can make it in. So I feel like this internship is like a great opportunity for like international students to like kind of experience this American sport, like you said, and kind of like come work in. And there's also so many other different international students who've made it to like the circle keeps going on, and like it's a chain. So I feel word of mouth is one way to like encourage people to like come join this internship, be a part of it, gain some different kind of experiences overall.
I would say advertising as well. I know like with some of the orgs that I'm in, like companies will come, like I know Adobe came and they'll talk about their internship with the students. So I feel like NASCAR has such a great opportunity to with all of us now like being a university students, like we can build a connection and have them present something, with our organizations that we're a part of. So I think that would be a really good idea for NASCAR. And as well, just us being kind of the face right now of NASCAR, we're bringing awareness. Like we have family members now who are curious about what we're doing. Our friends are like, "What? You're working at NASCAR?" So I think again, like word to mouth is another thing too.
Yeah, I mean, it's all good there, and I know it's great you mentioned that, Juliana, because I remember when I was in the program last summer, being at Sonoma Raceway, I consider it's like me being from the Bay Area, it's my hometown track, and from the time that I was able to spend there and help out with the race when NASCAR came during their annual summer weekend. I actually even helped encourage to get more people into NASCAR. I mean, everybody in my family knew that I was like passionate, big NASCAR fan, but they never really had a chance to experience it firsthand. And I knew one of the cool things that happened last summer was that I was able to get, members of my family, like, my mom, my godparents, my aunts, to come out to Sonoma for NASCAR weekend to see a race. Like it was their first ever NASCAR race that they'd been to, and they loved it. And I think with what we're doing as interns, being in this program that NASCAR puts on is, and this has been mentioned in our lunch and learns that we have. And this is another thing I like to note for, anybody that's interested in going into the program is that you're going to have lunch and learns where you're going to be meeting with, the top execs that work in NASCAR, in different departments. And the one thing that I've heard a lot from the people that we've had lunch and learns with is that the goal is to get people to become NASCAR curious. And, and a way for people to become NASCAR curious is that there are certain forms of branding and marketing that they're trying to use to, you know, like, because I'm sure people are aware of what NASCAR is, but to have them become like real true fans, like that's where the curiosity comes in. And I think with, like the race that happened in Chicago, it helped a lot of people that were in attendance or even watched it on TV become NASCAR curious because they may have never seen, NASCAR race before. And, just knowing the promotion that was behind this, like behind the Chicago race, that was probably the first time people ever tuned into a NASCAR race. And especially with the show that took place, now they're going to be start to become a lot more interested and be like, what I just watched was awesome. And I'm going to start following it a lot more. And like aside from the race, I think that's what this program does for all of us. So, I want to have this be our last question for everybody, and I think it's been a great episode so far. but I want everybody to close out with what piece of advice would you give to the OFPs that are listening or are looking to work in sports in the future, but not feel discouraged about the competitive application pool around the industry as a whole?
I would say just, be proactive. I would definitely utilize your LinkedIn, be actively on that, checking to see what your connections are doing, or just, Facebook pages, seeing where you can have these opportunities where you can actually get a job that maybe not that many people know about. Or I'd also recommend using stuff like Teamwork Online. That's another resource where you could find like job portals and stuff like that. So
Hmm.
definitely utilize the resources around you, and don't have that imposter mentality. Have confidence and believe in your abilities.
I'd say in terms of not being discouraged, to look at other people, especially if you're not someone who comes from a privileged background, or like has those connections. Usually, I mean, I would say to look at other people who have been in your situation and have succeeded in that field. Go through like inspiring TikToks or something, or like through Instagram Reels. You'll find people who have been in your position and are doing so great now. And if because it can be discouraging when you see things that other people have that you don't have. Um, so just find different mediums to inspire yourself.
I would say like be annoying, reach out to people. If you know what you want and you know you want it, just reach out to the person who's been in that position, is in that position. And I feel like anybody would be like more than happy to help you out. Because like I'm sure that person who's there today was in your shoes earlier and they went through whatever they did to get to where they are. So they can obviously give you the best way to get there, guide you, connect you with someone else that is probably there. And other than that, just like believing in yourself, like believe in yourself, believe you can do this, and half your battle's won there. Like the second you start believing you've got this, you've got this.
So, a piece of advice that I could give when just dealing with competition, and this just comes from also as well, like my background and being an athlete, is that you are the only competition. Like you can't be scared that like, oh my God, there are so many people that are competing for the same thing that they're taking your spot. You need to believe that this is your time to shine. And a lot of times, like if I'm having like anxiety, like, oh my God, too many people are like competing for this position, I always say I am the competition, or like you gotta say that to yourself. Sometimes you gotta be a little bit delusional, thinking that you are the competition, but you gotta do it. You gotta talk to yourself, and you gotta say it. I am the competition.
Affirmations. That's the message right there. Affirmations. Believe in yourself. You're the competition. I love that. Yeah, that's awesome. But yeah, I mean that wraps it up here. OFPs. I mean, you've heard it from the best. Angelina, Davila, Salaah Khan, Darren Henderson, and Juliana Ashrife, all great interns in NDIP, and I hope what they've said has inspired you to either apply for the program for next year when applications open up, or even just be inspired to continue to pursue that passion of trying to work in the sports industry and to trying to become the OFPs of the future. That's gonna wrap it up here. I just want to thank everybody for listening in. Thank, Angelina, Salah, Darren, Juliana. Thank you for coming on. You've all have been great guests and have been given great answers. And yeah, hopefully, this inspires those to, continue to pursue the aspirations of trying to become, sports industry professionals, become the future OFPs. And yeah, I mean, the series is gonna still keep going. I got a few more groups lined up, so make sure to be on the lookout for the upcoming episodes of the NDIP series for the Off Field Players podcast. And yeah, like if you watch the video version of this, make sure to like, subscribe, share on YouTube. Also, make sure to share this on Spotify. I'm also on iHeartRadio. And yeah, and if it's okay, like I'll leave everybody's information in the description down below where you can find them on LinkedIn if you want to connect with them, you want to ask them more questions. I'm sure they'll be open to doing that. But yeah, thank you all for tuning in to episode number 2 of the NDIP series for the Off Field Players podcast. I want to wish everybody good luck, stay safe, have a nice 4th of July weekend. If you're doing something, I mean, please stay safe, please. And yeah, like take care and see you on the next one. And as always, make sure to achieve what you believe.